the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars.
I'm Brittany Whitney on Business Rockstars, and my guest today is Mark Rampolla, CEO and founder of ZICO Coconut Water. Mark, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Nice to be here.
So I'm a huge fan of your coconut water. And I want to kind of hear about your entrepreneurial journey and what led you to start your company.
Thanks. Well, what's interesting is, first of all, that's already part of my role now. What's interesting is, my main job is as, co-founder and managing partner for Powerplant Ventures, and Powerplant Ventures bought back ZICO from CocaCola. So just to make sure people understand that full cycle. But, what started that for me was really, I was living and working in Latin America and had a corporate job and kind of progressing up in my life. And it was very much both a personal decision and a sort of business opportunity where I realized that I didn't love the end game of where I was heading and building them in my corporation. It was great. They were treating me well, but I didn't want to be a corporate guy for all my life. So I sort of realized, hey, I think I may need to make a change. At the same time, I really believed I wanted to try to create and find an opportunity, a business that would both, work for me personally, bring something good to, people in the world and make money. And so, I was selling packaging to the beverage industry. So I was sort of studying the industry and reading about everything that was happening. And this would have been about 2003. When vitamin water was just starting to take off. And I realized, well, it's interesting, but is the product really that healthy? What they've done is made it really cool. And around that time, I was drinking coconut water all the time, going to the beaches in Latin America, and certainly had it some mornings as a hangover cure. And I realized, wait a second, here's this great natural product, high in electrolytes, super healthy, but yet not known to the world. And it's also a waste product that's literally thrown away across the tropical world. Could we bring that, as a healthy beverage, but also figure out how to make it cool and popular too?
That's amazing. And you started your company out of your garage in New Jersey. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the story. It's a little different than that. I started the company while I still had a day job in working for this corporation while living in Latin America. Hired a few people to kind of help me get it off the ground. Moved back to the States. And then ran out of money and realized, so we had a nice little office, a few employees, thought everything was going well, and then quickly realized we were spending too much money. We had a few complications. Things weren't going the way we expected. So I had to move out of the office into my garage. And so I spent, in fact, nights and weekends for a number of months. I'm not a construction person by nature, but I literally built out the office above our garage to become the world headquarters of ZICO for the next 5 years.
Wow. And under your leadership, kind of really experienced explosive growth, and it became one of the fastest growing beverage brands. What do you attribute your success to?
Not giving up. I think that, I joke with people, it was a 9-year overnight success. Those first 5 years were frankly brutal, where, I was already, married. We had 2 young daughters, and I went from a pretty well-paying corporate job where we didn't have much to worry about to not being sure we could pay our bills at the end of every month, sure if we could cover our rent. And, worrying about, just getting through. And so the tenacity to stick with it, not give in and get up every day, show up and just do the work. And, that's what it takes. That's the story I hear from pretty much all successful entrepreneurs. Very rare are the stories of just, overnight successes.
Yeah.
And, what you want is money, success, fame, don't start a business.
Right.
But if you're willing to start this business and work at it for 10 years, 20 years, and you're okay if you don't make any money, you're okay that it might not work out, but you love this space and you're so committed to doing this work that you're willing to do it anyway, great, because that's what it's going to take to be successful.
Absolutely. It takes a lot of courage to start a company. So you created this amazing product. What did it actually take to physically get it on the shelves and to manufacture?
Wow. So, boy, that took a lot of research, and it's amazing what you can do with a computer and some phone calls these days, and tapping experts. So, I quickly learned to tap my network and figure out who knew about manufacturing and production, who knew about suppliers, who knew about coconuts, who knew about, transportation. And so little by little, I assembled a really great team of experts. Some came to work, some were consultants, some were just friends that were helpful. And I quickly learned, okay, how would we make this ourselves? Who could make it? So what people say, a classic sort of make buy decision, and we could find somebody that could produce it to the quality we wanted. Then learning about the packaging and researching the distribution channels and understanding retailers and who matters and how to navigate those conversations. And so it was a lot of learning. I knew nothing about the beverage industry. I knew nothing about consumer products. I knew nothing about, importing products or producing products, but you learn, you ask questions, you talk to people, you find people you can trust, you figure out who's good and who's not. And you learn a little bit every day, and every day is a new day, and you realize you don't know anything, and you start again.
And as you said, you knew nothing about the beverage industry. Did people think you were crazy for leaving your corporate cushy job and starting your own business? Or was your wife supportive? Like what kind of made you trek forward?
Yeah, I'd say everybody thought I was crazy for sure, including my wife. But she loved me enough and supported me enough to go along with my craziness,
That's important.
Yeah, and that's the best you can ask for. So, and yeah, a lot of people thought I had a nice job. I had a cush job. I was making good money. I had a good career ahead of me. We had our daughters, like I mentioned, so the risks were high. So yeah, and I can't tell you how many people didn't know what coconut water was, or thought it tasted terrible when they tasted it. So, and that was true for years. And I'll tell you, I can't tell you how many times I went out for early morning runs, and my mantra to myself was, everybody loves ZICO. Everybody loves ZICO. At the time, nobody even knew what it was or that it existed. So I had to convince myself, because that's what it takes when people think you're crazy. You gotta kind of check in with yourself and figure out if you really are.
You have to own it, right?
You gotta own it. You gotta own it.
What do you think the most rewarding aspect has been about growing your business to such a huge success? And what was the most challenging aspect?
Boy, the most challenging was that, how do you navigate, thinking about this big vision? I want to change the world. I want to build a healthy product business. I want to, make a difference in people's lives. And the day-to-day grind of, am I making the right decisions today? I've got to, pay invoices and check my accounts and go through my, email and, just deal with that grind, and sort of navigating between those and figuring out, are you spending your time in the best way possible on an everyday basis? That's probably the hardest thing, just constantly nagging on you, right? The most exciting are, of course, the wins, the exciting things, new celebrity, new account, new customer, somebody loves it, you raise some money. And so you got to celebrate those wins. But I'll tell you, looking back, probably I wouldn't have done it a different way, because looking back on, what people might call those lean years and those tough days, I look back on them fondly, and I will never forget the lessons that I learned during that time. And you know what? I feel like I'm back in a startup mode. So I now, I'm on my third fund. We're raising hundreds of millions of dollars. We're investing in some of the best companies in the world. But every day I'm learning, every day I'm struggling, every day I'm trying to get that balance right between thinking about the big picture and the small picture. And I go back to those early days of ZICO, and I just really am appreciative for the opportunity I had to learn those lessons.
Yeah, so you founded ZICO in 2004, sold it to Coca-Cola in 2013,
Right.
and now under your fund, Powerplant Ventures are taking it on a brand new adventure
Right.
with ZICO Rising. So walk us through kind of what that crazy experience has been like for you.
Yeah, you can't make, truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah.
You can hardly make this up. And I remember people asking me when we were in the process of selling it to Coke, hey, do you ever think you'd buy it back? And I remember thinking, it's possible, right? I kind of hope it doesn't happen because that means that it's big and it's successful and it's going its direction. But if for some reason it happens, I'm open to it. I'm open to it. And, as life sometimes happens, had it happened last year or the year before, it wouldn't have worked. I wasn't ready for it. I didn't have the mental space. I didn't have the structure and the ability and the capital and everything else to sort of make that happen. It just so happened that the timing was right. And so it was extraordinary. And it was, I learned about it like a lot of people. And, there was a Wall Street Journal article leaked in fact, it leaked, before Coke made the announcement that they were either selling off or shutting down upwards of 200 brands globally, and that ZICO was among them. Mm. And so I talked to my team and just tried to make sure, hey, am I crazy for thinking about this? And we started the process. I reached out to my contacts at Coke, and it took a while to get the deal done. But yeah, we bought it. And so we own it 100%. We set up a new company called ZICO Rising. I'm not the CEO of that company. We put in a world-class CEO and team to now go, scale it. So I get it. I feel like I get another bite at the apple, and that's rare in life, but it's been just extraordinary. My wife and I talk about it like we have two beautiful daughters, and they're 18 and 20 this month, but they had a little brother, ZICO, who was always high potential but really a troublemaker.
Yeah.
We sent him off to the Ivy Leagues. He wasn't a good fit. He's
Right.
back in the garage. We're going to get him back shaped up and send him up, and he's going to do amazing things in the world for sure.
It's true. It's like having another baby. So how many companies have you invested in kind of in the health and wellness space? And what do you look for in possible investments?
Yeah, so I personally invested in about 40 companies before starting Powerplant, all broadly social impact, some alternative energy, some education, but predominantly health and wellness companies. Mm-hmm. And then through Powerplant, we've now invested in 27 companies. And we look at 600 companies a year, and we'll invest in at most 4. And so, we've got sort of a checklist of things, but I can tell you a few of them. We don't invest now in true startups. We're looking for companies that are typically 5 to 10 million in revenue or up. Mm-hmm. But what we're looking for is, first of all, that unique entrepreneur that combines the missionary and the mercenary, where they're on a mission, they want to change the world, they have a big idea, but they are mercenaries about getting the job done. So they are brutal and focused and disciplined about executing every day. Right. That they can demonstrate, good results and good learning, and they've got a product and product market fit and passionate consumers, that they understand how that business is going to ultimately make money and scale, that they've surrounded themselves with very smart, capable people, but they're humble leaders and know that they haven't figured it all out. So it's a rare find. And so it's one of the hardest things of my job is having to say no to brilliant, capable, wonderful people, because we can only will invest in about 3 to 4 a year after seeing 600. But I love what I do. I get to work with some of the most amazing people every day.
That's so rewarding. Where do you find your inspiration from?
Wow, great question. I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of reflecting, but I'll tell you, I learn from our entrepreneurs, my team and their team every day. I find it inspiring. And I find it inspiring talking to these, many of these 600 entrepreneurs, just the way they see the world and the insight they have. Sometimes I agree with it, sometimes I don't, but I learned from it. So I'd say as much as the, learning I do from reading and from talking to major investors, the entrepreneurs inspire me the most, for sure.
That makes total sense. Majority of people want to quit their 9 to 5, or people have lost their jobs due to the pandemic and they want to be their own boss. What advice do you have for these entrepreneurs, people who want to start and grow their own business, but they have no idea where to start?
My first response, especially to somebody that has a job, is don't quit. Don't do it. Don't start a business. And the reason I say that is twofold. The first is because it's actually true. Your probability of success is low. It's brutal. Don't think it's romantic and sexy and fun and you're going to make a ton of money. You probably won't.
Right.
The other reason I say that is because the true entrepreneurs don't care, right? And so when they can hear that, internalize that and say, I know that's true, but I have to pursue this anyway, right? Then they've got a shot, right? But what I would say to those that go through that process, understand all the risks, see all the negativity, can understand the improbability, and they still want to do it, is do your homework, research, understand, talk to people. Ideas are a dime a dozen. It's all about execution, right? But you don't have to be a genius to execute. I'll tell you, some of the most successful entrepreneurs I know are definitely not, the smartest people in the room. I certainly wasn't either, right? But it's that discipline and tenacity about sticking with it every day, executing. So I'd say, look, have a plan, do your homework, understand you're solving a problem, understand you're feeling a real need, not just in your lives, but enough consumers' lives that make a difference. Connect with the smartest people you can, the most experienced people you can in that space, and be really cautious. Have a plan before you, just jump. But then when you jump, jump all the way in and figure out how to swim.
I'm sure you're a mentor also to so many CEOs and so many entrepreneurs. What do you think the biggest mistake you see is that people make when they first start out?
Great question. The first is the main one. I would say, I think there's two and they're interrelated. The main one is they don't really know themselves, their own strengths and weaknesses, their own fears, their own insecurities. And without a really deep self-awareness, it's tough to do anything in this world, and particularly in a business. And that goes hand in hand with knowing that you don't know it all, and you don't have to know it all, right?
Right.
That's why I see people trying to figure out everything themselves, and what I know is it's not possible. And so it's the people that are self-aware enough to know is, I think I know this. I'm pretty sure I know this. I don't have a clue about this. And here's what I'm doing to learn about this. Here's who I'm tapping and who I'm struggling. And I'm wondering your opinion on this. And I wanted to think about this. That sort of humility, self-awareness, willingness to learn, willingness to question, curiosity. That's, I think, the most essential characteristic we look for. And the opposite would be arrogance, confidence, and, lack of curiosity.
Yeah, you have to always be willing to learn. You're also the author of a book, Low Hanging Fruit. Highlight just some of the key points in your book, or if someone's interested about buying it, what's kind of the key takeaway?
Sure. And slight correction, the title is High Hanging Fruit.
High Hanging Fruit.
No problem. Just a little play on words to help people think a bit differently. Look, I think what I've found that people most appreciated were the real stories, so there's some how-to, there's some things you can learn from it, I think, but what I attempted to do, and what I think most people have found valuable, is I try to give the real stories, my inner workings, where I got frustrated, where I got concerned, where I hit walls, where I had struggles, and how we worked through them. And it's not always pretty. I share fights my wife and I had, bad decisions I made, conflicts I had, little techniques I used to get me through. And I think it's more than anything, it's almost a homage to entrepreneurs. Like I found that entrepreneurs read it and feel like, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm not alone.
Right.
I don't feel like I'm nuts. I don't feel like I'm the only one, because everybody struggles, but very few people talk about it. So it's, I think it's motivating in the end, but it's predominantly real. And I think that entrepreneurs find that valuable. I certainly did, to hear people's, real struggles, real stories, and ways that they got through it.
I love that. High hanging fruit. I'm going to get it. How do you give back to the community?
Oh, that's a great question. I never feel like I give back enough. I'll start with that. I know myself. I know that's a feeling I have, and I use it to motivate me. So I'll give you, a few examples. First of all, at any one time, am probably mentoring or advising a dozen entrepreneurs that I've never invested in. I never will invest. Most of whom are either diverse or diverse candidates, women or minorities in business that maybe don't have that access. I just got off the phone with one of my favorite organizations, Homeboy Industries here in LA, that does some amazing work with people that are sort of coming out of gang life or prisons. And I'm actually in discussions with them about helping to start some new businesses that can create jobs in LA. I do a lot of work on the environmental front with, I feel very privileged to work with a world-renowned environmentalist, Paul Hawken, and I'm helping him to launch a new organization called Regeneration that's hopefully going to help all of us think about how we can think more regeneratively about the way we live and the way we operate, and sort of leave the world a better place as we're building, businesses that help people on the planet. But I also feel like it's never enough. There's a lot of ways that I want to be helpful, and I'm challenging myself every day to think more about that.
Well, Mark, it has been such a pleasure speaking with you. Where can people learn more about you?
Boy, I'm not really much of a social media person at all. I think there's probably plenty about me in LinkedIn and other places, but I'd say reach out in Powerplant. We're kind of getting a new website up and running, but I'd love to hear from people at Powerplant. VC.com is our website, and you can reach out to me there. I'd love to hear stories from you, but I really appreciate your interest.
Okay, Mark, thank you so much. Have a great day, and I look
You're welcome.
forward to reading your book.
Thanks.